All right, so you're thinking about worm farming, right? Well, today we're going to lay out the essential blueprint for making it a massive success. We're talking about how to build the perfect headquarters for your little employees, your worm workforce, to keep them happy, healthy, and, super productive.
So, what's the big secret? I mean, really, what separates a worm farm that's just kind of meh from one that's absolutely thriving? What's the key to making it all click?
It all boils down to one thing: the environment. That's it. It's all about creating the ideal conditions for them. Because when you nail the environment, that's when you get all the good stuff we're looking for, right? You get that amazing, rich vermicast, worm manure, and that potent worm tea, which is an incredible liquid fertilizer. And of course, you get what you really want: a booming population of healthy worms.
Okay, so how do we actually build this perfect environment? Well, like any good structure, you got to start with a solid foundation. And in worm farming, that foundation is built on what I like to call the 5 golden rules. These are the absolute non-negotiables. You get these 5 things right, and trust me, you are well on your way to success.
And here they are. It really just comes down to these 5 things. First, you need the right bedding for them to live in. Second, the right feed for them to eat. Third, plenty of oxygen. They need to breathe too. Fourth, you've got to maintain consistent moisture. And finally, number 5, the temperature has to be just right. If you can master these fundamentals, you're doing everything you need to keep those little worm workers of yours happy and productive.
All right, once you've got those rules down pat, it's time to think about the architecture. We need to build the actual factory for your little workers. And choosing the right housing, well, that's a really strategic decision. It totally depends on what you're trying to do, what's your scale, what are your ultimate goals. And for the most part, you're going to be looking at one of 3 main types of systems. You've got your classic worm bins, the stackable ones, perfect for getting started. Then there are the more advanced continuous flow-through systems, or CFTs, which are vertical. And for really big operations, you have windrows, which are basically these long mounds of material outdoors. And believe me, each one serves a very different purpose.
And this little chart here really lays it all out perfectly. Are you just getting your feet wet at home? Worm pens are going to be your best friend. Thinking about a huge agricultural scale operation, then you're looking at windrows. But if you're serious about scaling up, maybe going commercial, then the efficiency of a continuous flow-through system is exactly what you need. And that efficiency is a game changer because it lets you harvest the finished castings from the bottom without bugging the worms working away up top. The key takeaway here: match your system to your ambition.
So, we've got our foundation and our architecture sorted. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the day-to-day operations. I'm talking about feeding. And how you feed your workforce, well, it's not just about tossing food in there. It's actually a tactical choice that can make your whole system run a whole lot smoother.
So you have to ask yourself, what's my main priority? If you just want something super simple and easy, surface feeding is for you. You literally just add food to the top. Now, if you want to make harvesting easier, you should check out the wedge method. With this, you feed in a line that moves across the bin over time. The worms follow the food, leaving behind pure castings for you to collect. Pretty clever, right? And hey, if you're worried about smells, trench feeding, where you bury the food in a little ditch, can be an absolute game changer. Again, it all comes back to matching your strategy to your setup and your goals.
At the end of the day, all of these rules, these different systems, and these feeding strategies, they all boil down to one powerful, simple truth. Everything we've talked about serves this one single idea. And it's this: remember, a happy worm is a productive worker.
And the payoff for all this planning? The reward for keeping those workers happy? Well, it's the incredible stuff they produce for you. You get a growing population. That's your live biomass. You get that black gold, the vermicast. And you get that super nutrient-rich worm tea. This is why getting your production system right from the start is so important.
So imagine this. You've built the perfect factory. Your worm workforce is happy, they're productive, and your whole system is just humming along. But even the best-run operation isn't totally safe. There are external threats. So, the big question is, how do you protect your workers from these specialized hunters that might be lurking in the shadows? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into in our next explainer.